Also with us, former Republican senator from Pennsylvania and candidate for the Republican nomination for president, Rick Santorum.
And boy, you know, we were talking about that Pakistan issue. For me, at least, the answer of the debate. It wasn't a cheap soundbite like Mitt Romney saying, if I'm elected president, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. That was a tough answer to give. A great answer by Rick Santorum. Now, we've been nice to Rick, so that's it.
Okay.
Now we're
see you guys. Nice being on the show.
No, buddy. You stay right there. Now, so, Rick, let's start by what I guarantee you more Americans are talking about around dinner tables in Pakistan or Iran or jobs bills or anything else. And that is your alma mater, Penn State, a man you call a friend, Joe Paterno. It's heartbreaking. I mean, I've always loved and respected Penn State from a distance. I went there this year for a game and came back raving about how I love the team, how I love the program, how I love the people, how I love the school. But my God, there have been so many adults who have let down so many children. It's just got to kill you. What's your reaction today?
Well, it's devastating. I mean, it's devastating on so many levels. I mean, you know, you think about these kids who, so many of them were hurt because people at Penn State didn't do the right thing. And that devastation, the devastation of people that you held up and you thought, you know, this was a program and a group of people that you respected, and to see that come crumbling down. And then the impact, you know, I'm a Penn State graduate, the impact on the university, the impact on the kids there, the impact on the community, the impact on the state. I mean, this is people don't realize, unless you're from Pennsylvania, you don't realize just how much Penn State is connected to everything. And to see this betrayal, really what it is, it's a betrayal. It just, I
was going to ask you about
beyond
that,
words, really.
How do you feel? And I want to hear you express it, because if this had happened at Alabama or Florida, at institutions that I love, I would feel totally betrayed. How do you feel about a 28-year-old who grew up in that area, connected to Penn State, seeing, and we could say allegedly, but according to his own testimony, seeing a 10-year-old boy being raped by a 60-year-old man in the shower, turning around and saying nothing to authorities, and seeing that same 60-year-old man bring little kids on the sidelines for the next 10 years?
Of all the things, I mean, there are horrible things throughout this entire, but of all the things, that's the one that just, it's inexplicable how you can't, your gut reaction is to take a football helmet and hit him over the head with it, you know, to do something, to at least do something, but to walk away is really the, like I said, it's inexplicable. And for him to continue to be in the program, it's interesting. I've been reading some articles that maybe one of the reasons they haven't fired him is because he's protected under whistleblower statutes, believe it or not. So, I mean, it gets legally contorted in so many ways. But clearly the point where this all began was someone who did something that still, in my mind, is again, inexplicable. Why you would do what he did.
So many things inexplicable. Let's turn to foreign policy in the debate the other night. A lot of cheap rhetorical calls for zeroing out all foreign aid, abandoning Pakistan. Mitt Romney saying, if Barack Obama is selected, Iran will have nukes. If I'm elected, they won't. Your moment was a moment that stood out. It was actually, in that crowd, it was a profile in courage saying, we've got to stay connected with Pakistan whether we like them or not. Explain your answer.
Well, let me explain a couple of things. Number one, with respect to Pakistan, as you mentioned, Joe, look, Pakistan has been an ally of the United States. I mean, they were an ally during the Cold War. They were an ally after 9/11. Were they a perfect ally in either sense? No. But, you know, they have their own national interests, and, of course, we all know they have radical elements within that country that make it very difficult for them to govern that country, and a lot of the people in that country do not like the relationship that the government has with us, and as a result, they have to do some things to balance their own political survivability. But with respect to the military, with their intelligence, and with large segments of the government there, we have had good relationships. We need to continue to foster those relationships, lest radical elements within Pakistan wrest control of that country, and with it, nuclear weapons. And then the second point, which is the zero-based budgeting. I'd like, you know, all the other folks to stand up because they said, oh, we should look at everything, you know, from the zero. Fine. If the idea is everything is a zero-based budget and we're going to look at, you know, Social Security and Medicare and defense spending and all programs are zero-based, fine. If that's what you're saying, everything is zero-based. But that's not what they're saying. They're pandering to this they're pandering this anti-foreign aid element out there. And I ask this question all the time when I speak at town hall meetings. I ask people what percentage of the federal government is in foreign aid, and usually you get 20, 30, 40, 50%. When I tell them it's less than 0.5%, people are shocked. And when I say how important it is to prevent military action, to prevent the expenditure of funds, to prevent America from getting involved in things that it shouldn't be, how foreign aid is valuable in that regard, and how all military foreign aid, and actually most humanitarian too, is actually spent in this country. So very little of it is cash payments to foreign governments that doesn't directly benefit the United States anyway. So this was I think a low light in that debate.
It was idiotic. I'm sorry. I know that sounds harsh, Mika, but it was idiotic, especially now that we're in a century that's going to be dominated not by military hard power. There's not going to be World War I, World War II. It's going to be soft power. And anybody that says you're going to zero out foreign aid.
Right, and that's why you had 5 secretaries of state signing a letter yesterday saying you need to preserve foreign aid. It's a strategic lever for the United States to achieve its objectives.
And we're not doing it, Dee Dee, to be nice.
No, we're doing it to protect our strategic interests.
People are going, oh, gee, why are we giving all these foreigners money? You know why we're giving the foreigners money? Because we want to win. We want to dominate the globe. We want our interests to be protected. And it has nothing to do with the United States being nice.
Exactly. So, especially in Pakistan, which is a volatile region, in which you really don't know in 5 years what the leadership structure is going to look like. You want to have institutions on the ground. You want to have connections to whoever's in that society.
There are a few other countries that I would say this about. But Pakistan is like a troubled child. It doesn't matter how bad they behave. You have no choice but to stay in there and make the relationship work, because this troubled child has nuclear weapons. And there are members of Al-Qaeda that want those nuclear weapons to sell them to third parties to kill Americans in Washington and across.
To your point, Joe, that's obviously something that the president learned very early on, because if you go back to his comments as a candidate, he was the one who would invade Pakistan as a candidate for the presidency. And the reality, bottom line, he's going to invade Pakistan. You can nuance and dance all you want. I remember the debate.
He would do exactly what he did.
Invade Pakistan.
No, he said what he would do.
Let's bring the candidate.
Go in.
The reality is, come on, different.
Rick,
come on,
go ahead, jump in.
Which is what he did.
Go, Rick. Bring order to the process.
It was hard to make sense of that. But here's what I would say: that Pakistan is different than China or other countries with nuclear weapons, in that Pakistan a radical Islamic element, and this radical Islamic element does not mutual assured destruction like we had with the Soviet Union and China and now Russia. You know, makes sense when you have political bodies that are not willing to kill themselves to get to heaven and have their 72 versions. When you're dealing with radical Islamists, and this is why Iran is so important, you can't let this nuclear weapons fall into the hands of theocrats who are willing to die, and in fact want to die for their God, and so that's what makes Pakistan unique in dealing with them, and that's why Iran, and that's why even President Obama, says Iran can't get a nuclear weapon. The problem is with President Obama, he's not doing anything to make sure that Iran is not getting a nuclear weapon, and that's where we would differ.
Senator Santorum, let's talk strategy, especially since you mentioned pandering, which there is a lot of among the Republican field. You've said that you think you're going to win Iowa.
I do.
Okay. The latest national polls show you at just 1 or 2% support, and the Des Moines Register poll last month had you in seventh place. How do you win Iowa, especially without pandering?
Well, look at this. I mean, that 70 to 75%, even in a lot of these national polls, say that people are really still undecided. And there was a Pew poll out a couple of weeks ago when people were asked, whether they could name any of the Republican candidates, and half the people couldn't name any of us. So this idea that these national polls, or even the Des Moines Register poll, really means anything at this point, it's still early. As Joe said, we're in the preseason. Folks are going to begin to start focusing as the weeks come down. We've built a strong organization in Iowa. I've spent more time than anybody else. I went to all 99 counties. We have a very clear message. We're not pandering. We're talking about serious, like I did at the debate the other night. We have serious answers and